Brandon Heath on KPRD with Your Love. And we want to welcome you to the morning show, and Jason Kennedy joining Dave and myself here this morning. Jason, Director of the Ellis County Health Department, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
There he is. Mic's on now. All right, so we're talking to Jason Kennedy. As you know, we've been kind of diving into conversations with you regarding COVID and things that we can do, and not responding in fear, but just some basic, sensible things, and in a calm way as we interact all the stuff going on. We're seeing a few cases come back to us now in the Midwest Kansas area. Not a lot, but a few here and there. We had the latest direction from the government saying that now you can wear masks, perhaps wear a mask. So I'm kind of tempted to go to the Halloween store and get like the little gorilla mask, and see if that would work. Do you think that'd be a good recommendation?
Sure. I've actually, I've seen a lot of really cool pictures on Facebook of people in Walmart with like a full horse head on and stuff like that. So, it's, I think at a time like this, sometimes humor is an okay thing. Some of those things make us laugh, and there's a lot of good memes out there. This is a unique and unprecedented time. It is a time of fear for a lot of people, like we talk about, but really it's an opportunity for us to slow our lives down, reevaluate what's really important, and educate ourselves at every opportunity about what is going on. We are rewriting the rule books as we move forward here. There isn't there's not a silver bullet. We've talked about, there's not one thing that's going to cure this and fix this. So we are learning as we go with this, especially as public health officials, as leaders. I think you even see it from the very top, from the White House. They're learning as they go, as they move forward with this. And so I think that's important for the general public to do as well. I think it's important for them to remain calm, take a deep breath, evaluate your position, see what's going on in your life, and educate yourself at every opportunity about the best way to protect yourself. There has not been a bunch of changes in the last 2 weeks of ways to protect yourself. It still is about the basic principles of good hygiene, washing your hands, not touching your face, all those types of things, and then that social distancing piece. So the closures, the stay-at-home orders, all of that kind of stuff are to reinforce that social distancing piece. They're to reinforce that not being within 6 feet of people for greater than 10 minutes, but it's really about not being within 6 feet of people ever. We talked about it last time. If we all sort of just lived our lives like we had it, we probably would be able to stop that or to slow the spread. Viral transmission happens person to person. So this stuff goes from person to person. I know there's some the cats in the Bronx Zoo, there's some of that kind of stuff coming out where animals, we've known from the start that this can be, it can live in animals, it can also live in humans. There's really been no documentation of after transmission here that it's gone back and forth, especially with home pets, things like that. So it is that person-to-person piece. It's being within 6 feet. So everything that's happening right now is really to reinforce that. Now, we as individuals have to make that decision. We as individuals have to make that decision to maintain that distance between us and other people. So know that the measures that we're taking, the executive orders, the mandates, they come down to you making the decision to protect yourself and to protect those around you.
So, mask.
So I believe it was like Monday, maybe Sunday evening, they kind of started talking about homemade masks. So with masks, as far as the medical grade masks, so you look at the surgical masks and you look at we've heard about N95s. A lot of people, that's the first time they've heard of N95s. The medical masks need to be reserved for people who are dealing with sick patients. They need to be reserved for people who are inside that healthcare setting, first responders, police officers, everyone who might have close contact with sick people, nursing homes, all those kinds of places. The medical masks need to be reserved for them. Now, they started talking about the use of homemade masks. There's not a lot of strong evidence to support that a homemade mask, actually there's evidence to support that it it doesn't stop the virus. The virus is too small. It will go through that. But what it does is it increases that social distancing piece. You see somebody walking around with a mask on them, you don't want to approach them. They don't generally approach you. They're doing everything they can to protect themselves. There is some evidence to suggest that a homemade mask might block some particulates. So if you cough, sneeze, something like that, it might block some of the distance that will fly. The big thing with those homemade masks is making sure that you clean them frequently, because you can get yourself sick with what's growing inside of that mask from your own body, not from anyone else. So making sure that you clean those frequently, you don't wear them all day. It's for when you're maybe out in the public, or what the government actually said, or what the White House said is, if you're in a situation where you cannot distance yourself, where you cannot be more than 6 feet away, they sort of recommend the use of them. Dr. Lee Norman this week came out and said, hey, it's really just about increasing that social distancing piece. But if you're able to distance yourself and be away from people, it's up to you as an individual to decide whether that's a measure that you're willing to take for yourself, or if that's something that you want to do to protect other people. But the big thing is making sure you clean those things frequently, because they will grow bacteria and everything else inside of them.
Okay, I think I just had to repress a gag reflex there, but
No, that's good information, because I can't say that I've heard that you need to be sure to be washing them if you have a homemade mask that's just out of some type of material or something. That
Right.
Now, what about a mask like you would wear if you were sanding some wood or something? Are those very effective? And do you have to wash those, or do you just replace them every day?
Depending on the grade of the mask, some of those are the same as what they use in the healthcare environment. They just label them a little bit differently.
Okay.
But you can repurpose those as long as for the same individual. But that's really more inside a clinical setting. If they're running short on PPE, something like that, they'll reuse those. Generally, those masks are disposable, single use. It really comes down to the individual at that point, doing some research and seeing there's tons of good information out there about reusing PPE, how to decontaminate it, all that kind of stuff. It comes down to the individual looking at the type of mask they have, going online, finding that information, finding good information. I would say stick to the CDC website. They have KDHE website too, but CDC has a lot more information specific for PPE use and reuse of PPE.
yeah. Okay, so perhaps if it makes you feel safer, great, knock it out. But you don't necessarily need it unless you want to go around with the gorilla head on to make everyone laugh.
Sure, and it's about, like I said, taking that deep breath, making sure you look at your situation. There are people that are caring for elderly people inside their home that also have to leave their home. Those people are in a different situation than the general public. They need to make sure that they get information as far as how to protect their loved one, or their their at-risk population, that person that lives with them or that they're caring for. They need to figure out how best to protect them, because that truly is the at-risk population, are the ones that we're worried about.
Okay.
All right. Well, great information. I love the fact that you say let's continue to practice our humor and stay more light. Just a lighter feel to this very tense. And sometimes, when we hear things, it becomes a place of, we find ourselves in a place of fear. And such a great reminder to keep our sense of humor and remain calm.
Yeah, it's everybody needs a mental health break. Everybody needs a mental health break from really anything that they do in life. But right now is an important time to really turn the TV off, read a book, go outside for a solo walk, find something to get away from COVID. Find something to get it off your mind for a little bit, so that you can really open your mind up to learn. The more fear we have, the less we'll learn. So the more we can repress some of that fear, we can actually educate ourselves, we can make sound, rational decisions, and everyone needs a mental health break. You've got to get away from, it's no different than work or anything else. You've got to get away from it for every once in a while to keep yourself healthy.
And so Jason, I need to ask you this. My husband and I were out walking the other day, and there was a gentleman sitting in his chair by his front of his house, and he said, "You guys aren't practicing social distancing," because we were walking shoulder to shoulder, and we kind of joked with them and kept walking. What would you say to that kind of a situation?
So they, and even the CDC's defended this, KDHE, it's really about if you cohabitate, so if it's you and your spouse, or if it's your family unit, basically that all live together under the same roof, you do not social distance inside the home. So outside the home, you can continue that. You can gather in small groups of cohabitating family members. So that means you live under the same roof. Now, if you bring blended families together, you've got this house with that, then that's a different story. You still need to maintain that social distancing piece. But if it's a cohabitating members of the same family, you can gather in small groups. You can walk together, that type of thing. COVID-19 is not out hanging in the air. It passes person to person. So the fact that you guys walk out the door together means that you can kind of stay together when you go on the walk. Now, if you meet up with a friend at the end of the block, you meet up with your neighbor from down the street, you need to try and maintain that social distance. You need to keep those 6 feet in between you. Okay. The best recommendation is if you're not with a cohabitating member of your family, just exercise solo. For now, go outside, go for a solo walk. And, honestly, sometimes the best thing you can do for your mental health is spend a little time by yourself, and enjoy the outdoors. Today's going to be nice. I think the rest of the week, not so much. I'm not a weatherman, but it's, get outside, give yourself that mental health break, and keep a little humor in your life and move forward.
Okay, so now we are expecting to peak soon, right? So there's a light at the end of the tunnel that we are going to get behind this.
Yeah, it's I think Dr. Norman has stuck to the third week in April to the end of April is kind of where his projections put us for the peak in Kansas. Now, just because we reach the peak doesn't mean that we will immediately go back to pre-COVID lifestyle. I think it's really too early to see what the recovery of this looks like, but I do think that there is light at the end of the tunnel. As even in New York, they're seeing some leveling off of their death toll. They're seeing leveling off of new cases. They think that they are at or close to the peak. So in some of the hardest hit areas in the country, we're seeing some of that, at least signs of progress. As far as here in Kansas, we've got a pretty flat peak. We did a lot of these closures early on, or the state did a lot of these closures early on. If you go to the University of Washington website, there's actually some really, really good projections in there. You can kind of see where they think we're going to be in the state of Kansas, where they think the nation's going to be. I think he's still sticking with that kind of third week in April as far as a peak. And then as far as what the backside recovery, how we start going back to life, this is a new situation. This is unprecedented. This is something that we've not really dealt with before. So I'm not sure anyone has a good picture of what that looks like.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for the conversation on masks. I'll look for that gorilla head mask.
Yes.
And see if I can make that happen. Any lasting thoughts or comments?
I think like I say every time, it's the sun will come up again tomorrow, and making sure that you are protecting yourself so that you can protect those around you. Wash your hands. Washing your hands. It is. We cannot talk about that enough. That is the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself and to protect those around you, and increasing that social distancing piece.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. Again, Jason Kennedy, Director of the Ellis County Health Department. We appreciate your time and your insight. It's been very helpful.
No problem. You guys have a good day.
Yeah, hey, thanks for tuning in to Praise Radio for Midwest Kansas. We're going to head into Jordan Felice Faith here, building our lives on the solid rock in Jesus Christ, to avoid all the fear that's going on around. Praise Radio.